You're cold. Your skin tightens. Little bumps rise up your arms. The hair stands on end, and for half a second, your whole body braces. That reflex has a job. When an animal gets cold, the tiny muscles at the base of each hair contract and puff its fur up into a thick, warm layer. Cats do it, dogs do it. Every furry thing on Earth does it. You just did it too. Except you don't have fur. Those goosebumps are your body reaching for a coat that hasn't existed in about 1,000,000 years. You're pulling a lever that came unplugged a long time ago, and nothing on the other end answers. So instead, you do something no other animal has ever done. To fix the cold your body forgot how to handle, you go and find a coat somewhere else. You get dressed, and this morning, like every morning, you didn't think about it once. Here's something nobody points out. Among big mammals, humans are almost the only ones that are naked. Gorillas? Covered. Chimps, bears, wolves, horses, elephants, every one of them across every climate on Earth, walking around in a full coat. And then there's us, standing in the middle of all of it, smooth, pink in places, patchy in others, looking like an animal that used to have fur and lost a bet. We didn't lose a bet. We shed it on purpose over hundreds of thousands of years, and there's a good reason why. Our ancestors moved out of the shade and onto open grassland, and they started hunting by running. Not fast, forever. Chasing animals for hours in the heat until the animal overheated first and gave up. Fur is a disaster for that, so we traded it. We gave up the coat and got something better for the job. Sweat. A lot of it. You have somewhere between 2 and 4 million sweat glands. That's more than almost anything alive. You are, no exaggeration, one of the best cooling machines evolution ever built, which is fantastic if your entire plan is to jog an antelope to death at noon. But it's considerably less fantastic when it's 40 below, and you're standing in Central Asia with nothing but skin and a rock. So here's the obvious story. Humans got cold, humans grabbed an animal skin, humans wrapped up. Clean. Logical. A child could work it out. There's just one problem. The dates don't work. And before we get to why, we have a mystery, because dating the first clothes should be impossible. Skins rot, fur decomposes, nothing survives. The oldest sewing needles show up much later. So how do you find the exact moment a naked ape first put something on? You ask the lice. Stay with me, because this is one of the strangest pieces of detective work in all of science. Humans carry 2 kinds of lice. Head lice, which live in your hair, and body lice, which live somewhere very specific, not on your skin, in your clothing. In the seams, in the folds, in the fabric. Body lice cannot survive on a bare human. They need clothes. That's the entire habitat. No clothes, no body lice. And body lice didn't always exist. They split off from head lice at one particular moment. The moment humans started wearing clothes, often enough to build a brand new home for a parasite. So a geneticist named David Reed and his team at the University of Florida did the obvious thing. They found that split. They measured how long ago body lice broke away from head lice. The answer came back somewhere between 83,000 and 170,000 years ago. Sit with that for a second. The single most hated insect in human history, the thing that empties classrooms and ruins summer camp, quietly kept the oldest receipt we have for getting dressed. The lice knew when we started wearing clothes long before we did. They were there, they moved in. But this is where the clean little story falls apart completely. Humans didn't leave Africa in real numbers until around 70,000 years ago, and Africa at the time was not cold. So clothing shows up tens of thousands of years before anyone walked into a climate that could actually freeze them. If clothes were only about warmth, they're early, way too early. Something else was going on first. There are 2 answers, and one of them is boring. The boring one is protection, not from cold, from everything else. Sun, insects, thorns, sharp rock. If you spend your days pushing through tall grass tracking animals, a simple wrap keeps your skin from getting shredded. It's not deep. Sometimes you just don't want thorns in your legs. The second answer is more interesting, because we have evidence that humans were decorating their bodies with pigment, with red ochre, at least 200,000 years ago. That's before the lice, before the clothes. We were painting ourselves before we were dressing ourselves. And the leap from painting your skin to draping a hide over it is not a big one. Once the hide is on, you start noticing things. Whose hide is it? What it came from? Did I kill it myself? Does wearing it say something about me? Welcome to the first fashion industry. Population, about 40. All of them arguing over who gets the leopard. For a long time, clothing stayed rough, a skin thrown over the shoulders, tied off with a bit of twisted sinew, edges hacked with a stone flake. The prehistoric version of a bin bag works fine, wins no awards, and then, around 50,000 years ago, something shows up in the record that changes everything. The needles. not pointed sticks for poking holes. Real needles with a tiny eye bored through one end, made for threading fiber and stitching two pieces of material together on purpose. The oldest one we've found came out of Denisova Cave in Siberia. It's carved from a bird bone and polished so finely it's almost hard to believe. Think about what that needle actually is. Someone looked at a splinter of bone and pictured a tool that did not yet exist. They worked out how to drill a clean hole through the thin end without snapping it. Then they used it to join two things with a neat, repeatable stitch. That's not instinct. That's engineering. That's a person solving a problem with imagination instead of muscle, and it mattered more than almost anything else from that time. You can live without pottery. You can live without cave paintings. In a Siberian winter, 40 below, without a sealed seam holding heat against your body, you cannot live at all. Which brings us to the part that flips the whole thing over. Around this same stretch, Earth went cold. Hard. Glacial cycles, expanding ice, food collapsing. And at one point, the entire human population may have dropped to a few tens of thousands. We came genuinely close to simply not existing. The groups that survived and pushed north into Europe and the deep cold of Asia had one thing in common. They already knew how to make good clothes. Fitted, layered, sealed at the wrists and neck where heat escapes fastest. For them, clothing wasn't decoration anymore. It was the line between waking up and not. But here's the real weight of it. Every other animal that moved into the cold solved it the slow way. It grew fur. It grew blubber. It changed its body over millions of years until the body matched the world. We didn't change our bodies at all. We just carried the solution with us. In a single generation, a human could survive somewhere its biology had no business being. Not because it evolved, because it got dressed. We are the first animal that swapped evolution for technology. We stopped waiting to become something new and started wearing it instead. And here's the strange part. Because the clothes did the adapting, our bodies never had to. A person born on the equator and a person born in the Arctic have almost the same bare skin, the same weak tolerance for cold. The coat took over the job. Evolution quietly let go of the wheel and handed it to a needle. And we weren't even alone in working this out. Neanderthals were making and wearing clothes too. So were the Denisovans, that third human cousin we barely knew existed. Which leaves one quietly unsettling question. Maybe clothing wasn't a lucky invention at all. Maybe any animal cold enough, clever enough, and social enough eventually ends up right here. Maybe once you're us, it was always going to happen. So why did we start wearing clothes? For all the reasons at once. To keep the thorns out. To say who we were. To survive a world turning to ice. All of it, layered on top of itself over 100,000 years. But underneath all of it is something simpler. We were the naked ape, the one that got cold and, instead of slowly turning into something furrier, made a stranger choice. It picked up a second skin, threw it over its back, and never once put it down. Everything you own traces back to that. Every coat, every uniform, everything hanging in your closet is descended from a dead animal draped over a shivering primate 170,000 years ago. You got dressed this morning without thinking, but that reflex, cover the body, signal the self, carry your own weather with you wherever you go, is one of the oldest human things there is. The goosebumps never left. Your skin is still reaching for fur that vanished a million years ago. And every morning, without a word, you answer it. You reach for a coat, exactly like the first one did. Thanks for watching. All the sources and studies used in this video can be found in the description below. Here's a video I'm sure you're going to enjoy.